Do you have a DonorsChoose.org project that needs funding? Today's sponsor is Advancement Courses, and they are donating 10% of their sales until September 28th to DonorsChoose.org projects. And if you're needing professional development for yourself, you get 20% off their 200-plus online PD courses using the special code just for 10-minute teacher listeners. So stay tuned at the end of the show. You know, flexible seating is being talked about by everyone. So I asked my research assistant, Dr. Lisa Durf, to find someone who had implemented a flexible seating and could compare a classroom before and after. And this episode is the result. Episode 368, Flexible Seating, Before and After.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
So today we're talking with Justine MacKinnon, fourth grade teacher in Massachusetts. Now, Justine, you have just gone with a totally flexible seating classroom. How can you compare, or how do you compare before and after? Like, tell us what you originally had in your classroom.
So originally in my classroom, we had traditional desks that you slipped your materials underneath the desk and basic chairs. Now we have flexible seating that I won in a contest last year, and we have two types in our classroom. We have chairs that are attached to tablet desks, and those swivel, the chairs do, and the desks. And then we have brown desks that are sit to stand, and chairs that swivel to go with them.
Okay, so let's kind of break this down. What's a tablet desk?
So a tablet desk sort of looks like the desks you might see in high school classrooms that are for left-handed students or right-handed students. And the special thing about our desks is that they switch from both left-handed to right-handed. The tablet, the writing portion of the desk, swivels, but is an extension of the chair.
Now, what is a sit to stand? So they can sit or they can stand and they can move it back and forth if they want to?
Yes. So the sit to stand desk has a lever on the side and the desk raises up to the child's height. This is not only great for when children choose to stand because it's flexible to their height. In fourth grade, we have students who haven't hit their growth spurt yet and students who have. But it's also great when they're sitting because it's the appropriate height for them. They're not reaching up too high. They can comfortably make it work for them rather than adjusting to the desk.
Yeah. And, you know, that is such an issue on making things fit because sometimes my kids never did fit because they're large, tall children. So what's the difference? I mean, obviously you're another teacher, you know, another year older and you're teaching. So that usually helps because you've been teaching, 3 years now?
This is my fourth year.
So how different is the environment in your classroom with the traditional desks last year versus the stand to sit and what you call the tablet desks?
I have to say it's definitely a more welcoming environment. The students are excited that they have a desk that's unique to our room. It's comfortable. They're more excited because the furniture works for them.
So do you see a difference in behavior or attentiveness, or like how would you care if you were describing to me the difference? Because, you know, not everybody can win an awesome contest. Some people have to, you know, go to their administration and make the case for why they need flexible seating. What do you tell the folks that want to go with flexible seating about why?
If it's a possibility, I say go for it. For my students that require more movement, students that like to stand while they work, like to fidget with their feet, it's a less disruptive way to include that movement throughout the day. It helps my students feel more comfortable in their classroom. My students don't feel uncomfortable about being the kid that fidgets or the kid that has to wiggle a little bit while they work.
Okay, so if a kid, you know, used to, if they fidgeted, they would be, you know, how many times have we all said 4 on the floor, right? So if they're fidgeting and wiggling in flexible seating type desks, what does that look like and why is it less disruptive?
Now that it's the third week of school here, my students have really gotten used to the furniture and they know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. It did take a lot of explicit teaching and a lot of practice and some playtime to get used to the furniture. Now that we're in the third week of school, they know what's disruptive to themselves and what's disruptive to their peers. And they've really become more responsible of their own bodies in that time.
Okay, so when you're training kids how to properly use flexible seating, what are some of the things you tell the kids?
So first, I love to start with a physical model. I have a student sit in the furniture or stand with the furniture, and I point out where their hands are, where their eyes are while they're working or while we're in whole group. We talk about where their feet are. And then we make a rule list together. I don't really like to phrase it as a rule list necessarily, but more of a guidelines. And we talk about, again, what's appropriate for where your eyes are, where your hands are, where your feet are during that time. And then we also talk about when it's appropriate to move your seat around. So we have a conversation about we don't move during whole group time, but when it's small group time, we're responsible for using the furniture how it's going to help us. So if that means standing while you work, you silently raise it up, and that's a decision the child makes if that's going to help them.
Interesting. So they can kind of, there's certain times when they can just really choose how they want to sit.
Absolutely.
Does that mean you let them sit on the floor if they want to?
Absolutely. If they feel like sitting on the floor and they're going to be productive there and they're going to work collaboratively there, then why not?
So when somebody comes into your room and the kids are standing up, sitting down, sitting on the floor, different places, do you ever get any pushback?
Thankfully, I have a very supportive administration about flexible seating and a flexible classroom. So thankfully, I do not. But it is an adjustment for other visitors who might not be familiar with flexible seating when they come in our classroom. It might be hard to figure out where our guided reading center is, but it works for the children, so our visitors quickly adjust.
So when you have other teachers come in and look, are they jealous? I assume you still have some teachers in your school who have traditional classrooms. How do they feel about what you've done?
They are very happy for our classroom.
Are they jealous?
I don't know if they're necessarily jealous, but it definitely has been inspiring for other teachers to incorporate stools at their stations or beanbag chairs in their small groups. I think it has had a positive influence on our staff, but it is very difficult to build a classroom with flexible seating without support from perhaps a contest or a district.
You've got to have the financial support to be able to go to this model. Okay, did you make any mistakes early on with your flexible seating?
There were a few mistakes. At first, I didn't review the expectations explicitly. There was a lot of rolling around, and that required some reteaching last year, but it gave me a great chance to learn about what to do right this year. We won the furniture last year, early December, so it was already halfway through the year, which is a hard time to teach new expectations for basic things like how to sit. So it was an easier start this year by starting fresh at the beginning of the year to teach expectations for furniture and how to find a place for yourself to work during the day.
So are the parents saying anything about what they think about flexible seating?
The parents have been very supportive. When we won the contest last year, we had many parents voting. We received over 14,000 votes, and most of them came from our school's community and our town's community. So the parents are very enthusiastic about it. And this year, speaking to the parents of my new students, they're very excited that it's a way for their child to have movement in their day, especially if it's a child that, has struggled previous classrooms about keeping four on the floor or staying in their seat or falling out of their chair because they're wiggling too much. So the parents have been very grateful for this opportunity for their children.
Yes, it just, those who have flexible seating, most of them say they'd never go back. How about you? Are you one of those?
I would never go back to the traditional furniture if I did not have to. This flexible seating has really changed my teaching style. It's really changed my connection with my students. It's really changed the way my students perform and the way they are productive in class.
Okay, so there you have it. We have a before and after with flexible seating. This is something that a lot of folks are talking about. And so Lisa Durf, our research assistant, and I were talking about we kind of wanted to find somebody who had a before and after to kind of compare it for us. There's lots of options out there to take a look at giving kids ways to wiggle constructively because they kind of need to wiggle and kind of need to move. Thanks, Justine.
Thank you.
From now until September 28th, Advancement Courses, an online provider of professional development for K-12 teachers, is donating 10% of their sales to funding DonorsChoose.org projects. Go to advancementcourses.com/give to submit your project today. And if you're in need of professional development, the 10-Minute Teacher listeners like you can get 20% off any online courses with the code COOL20. That's COOL 20. With this coupon, a 3 grad credit course for continuing education, salary advancement, or recertification is only $359. So go to advancementcourses.com/coolcat to learn more and make sure you use that coupon code COOL20. Never stop learning.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.